Okay, Devinash, welcome. I'm going to do a 20-second intro. This is Business Architecture for Startups. Devinash is a senior manager, wholesale transformation at HSBC. And Devinash, tell us where you are speaking and located from today, and then you can go ahead and start rolling.
Sure. Thanks, William. So I'm currently speaking from Hyderabad in India, and a very good afternoon to all of you. Or morning. I think it's still morning there, so I can say morning. So William, am I good to start?
Yes, you are good to go.
All right, all fun in technology. All right, thank you everyone for giving me time. I'm very much thankful for the Business Architecture Guild to come up and share my experiences, my learnings, and looking at the agenda, I'm quite excited to see all the various varieties of ways business architecture has been implemented in real world, and a room full of people enthusiastic about business architecture. I think this is more than the number of people I can find in my organization who can understand at the level in which this room is actually excited about. I'm going to talk about business architecture for startup, and just to set the context and the agenda, what all things I'll be covering. Like about my introduction, I'm from HSBC, and I've spent a number of years working in technology, operation excellence, business strategy, and currently I'm kind of in a space of digital delivery, looking into payment innovations, cross-border payments, applying automations, all the fun stuff that you can think of. And in my current role, I come across with a lot of fintechs, and we are also doing a lot of industry connects, working with education institutes, both for building a talent pipeline and bringing industry context to them. And honestly, I'm really missing attending this particular session in person, because there could be a lot of learning in that room that I can take back and kind of spread the word. So my topic was business architecture for startup, and the key inspiration for me to kind of look at it from this angle is because when I'm going out to all these places, talking to fintechs for different products that we are onboarding, or exploring different solutions, talking to people in different incubators, education institutes, I'm not able to connect to them, and I do express my interest and need about talking in the business architecture language. And I always think that me coming from a big, heavily regulated industry where a same capability is implemented in different ways in different markets, like what my colleague in Hong Kong does is very different from same thing what he does in Singapore, because how the business is set up. I always thought that given the value that we know good business architecture practice brings in, all these different fintech environments that are out there and startups, if they start adopting it, they won't have to go through a lot of convincing conversations around it, building and buying in, and they can, being small and nimble, they can go ahead and implement it right away. But the reality was slightly different from that. And in this presentation, I just want to share my journey that I'm going through. We'll pick up some of the suggestions that this group may be having, and we'll talk about things that would be coming up next. I'm very thankful for the previous speaker, Joseph, because the first half of his presentation sounded like he was talking to me, and could really take that help. And I know there would be more like me who would be very much interested in taking this forward. Now, to be very honest, sitting in banking and talking about startup in the current economic environment is not what this presentation was inspired about. So like I shared, there's a lot of talk going on from the banking and startup and fintech environment, and apparently I find myself at the center of it. So equally excited about talking about it. Now, coming on to just to give a context, like when I talk to all these different startups and people who are working in fintechs, or when we go out to industry outreach in incubators, in building the pipelines, the key definitions what we normally call about startups. I don't have to explain it to this group. They always want to be disruptive, smart, fast-paced, innovative, and they always pride themselves of being very niche and very high risk taking. What they have in their benefit is few key people very passionate about building things, but they are always short of resources and they want to use it very wisely. And in my conversation with them, I tell them the benefits or the value that I see looking things from a business architect point of view. And they always come back saying the same thing to me again and again. Can you find a good full stack developer for me instead? And that's where most of the conversations ended, because they always want to focus on very tech heavy, very tech instance oriented. And me coming from previous technology background, also worked in technology, I know what kind of blindside that kind of brings in. And on all the conversations, they would bring in the topic of IT architecture and not looking at things from a business architecture point of view. What we did was, me and a couple of my colleagues, we went around talking to them that, okay, if you qualify yourself as a startup, what could be your biggest priorities in your areas? And it was not a surprise on the things that we were able to pull off. Everyone want to build a great product. Everyone want to build on getting more number of customers, more number of consumers. Everyone is talking about fundraising, talent acquisition. How can I? It all comes back to how can I hire a good full stack developer? And I think that's what everyone thinks, that would be a silver bullet that's going to solve all of their problems. There are many things that they are not focusing on, and what my next set of slides is, I had to do it 2 times. One, when I was submitting this for this business architecture innovation summit. And then the current economic environment gave me a unique opportunity to revisit it again. So I happen to have conversations with close to 50 different individuals working in 50 different areas, and ask the same questions again in form of surveys, in form of personal interviews. And that gave me a kind of a good benchmark to see that now when almost everyone in the startups are seeing a acute shortage of funding, customers are getting dried up. A lot of regulations are coming up in the marketplace that are stopping them. Some of the small startups are folding up because government has passed a law because of which they cannot operate it in a certain environment. And I went back again to them, asking them that, okay, now what's your opinion about business architecture? Do you think it would have helped you? With the current shock that the wider industry is facing, do you think you will be able to do it? And there are a couple of statistics that I was able to pull out, and I always use it when I'm talking to them. And many of these people are so much laser focused in building the products, getting out to market, that they have very little room to actually sit down and talk and go into the depths of the benefits a business architecture practice can bring to their organization. The next couple of slides I've played around. I had to play it around a few times, but in the environment where I'm operating out from, mainly very tech-heavy startup environment, where the capital is very, very less, and the cost to market is high. What we found out that from a business architecture point of view, 50% of the respondents said that, no, we don't think that we want to apply business architecture in our place. For now, you give us good developers. We know what to build. We know this environment. And but when I had to follow up with a question to them that, do you think you'll be changing your business architecture within the next 6 months? More than 60% responded, yes. Yes, we have to change within the next 6 months. We are small, we are agile, we have to change the way the market works, we have to evolve, and we have to grow and build on that. And but the good part was there were pockets of places where people were appreciative of applying business architectures. But again, given that most of these organizations that I've spoken to, I was targeting less than 50 headcount. And like many of you would relate to it, that business architecture practice requires a lot of dedicated effort to kind of build it. Nobody was interested in having business architecture built in place. So the guys who were doing it were relying on external consulting services to build it for them. And maybe 6 months later, revisit it and then build upon that. When I went back asking specific questions that, are you aware of Business Architecture Guild? What the guild brings in, and how the different frameworks are in places, and what the way you should change your priority and perspectives. Like 64% were not aware, and which was not a surprise, because I predominantly operate from a transformation background, and most of my colleagues, the definition of value stream is more from a process excellence point of view, more from a Lean Six Sigma. When I talk about business architecture, most of my colleagues also, they kind of misnomer it as a BA building how a solution would be used by a business or a line of business. So that is the kind of challenge that we were working in, and given that they do not have a lot of in-house experience also, because most of the people who are working and focused on building the products are very laser focused on product development. And that's where I see an opportunity to actually go out and help them. And now these numbers, what I'm sharing, could be very specific to the area and the nature of people whom I was interacting with, predominantly in digital and a payment gateway kind of environment where most of these people were working. However, one interesting trend I was able to pick up in midst of this crisis was the number of respondents who mention that they have a business architecture practice in place to various degrees of maturity remained the same. So for me, when I went back to them, there were some individuals with whom I had a longer conversations. They did understand the importance of what a business architecture brings in. So that was kind of encouraging for us also, that yes, when the crisis hit, most of the people who were not aware of business architecture and the value that it brings, it didn't matter to them. But for the people who understand how the capability and the value mapping is out there, and how they are trying to implement it within their organizations and try to go on that journey, they did not drop it from their priority. So, and this is something that could not have been tested out if the current macroeconomic environment would not have come across in a certain way. Now, with these kind of experiences and exposures, I had follow-up conversations with different individuals that, okay, what do you need that will really help you? And please think beyond a full stack developer and tech specs that you are kind of having a focus on. And I had to share them my experience of working in a big organization, very regulation heavy, where it is very difficult to apply something in flight. And they are currently sitting in a very right position where it can be maximized in the best possible way. And during the conversations, a couple of things that did come up, and I try to put it down in very high level, 3 bullet points. And because these are the organizations which are like very nimble, they change their goals, they change their focus very frequently. What they really wanted was that, okay, a couple of organizations, the 35% group who were applying business architecture in different spaces, they said that, yes, we understand it has value, but if it can have a leaner approach, and everyone tries to refer it back to how we can apply a leaner version of project management, how we can apply a leaner version of agile, because these individuals are very heavy on tech and IT project delivery. That's the kind of area that they are expecting. When we were having conversations on, have you tried the self-evaluation model? They are aware of it, but given the, I would say, the exhaustiveness of the business maturity model, business architecture maturity model, some of them would rather fall back and doing what they do best rather than going through the evaluation model and coming up with the recommendations and then trying to apply it on their end. One thing that kind of stood out periodically was given that most of these tech companies focus on faster customer acquisitions and a smoother customer journey, they all look for a quick fix solution. So it was quite interesting. Almost everyone asked, do you have a starter toolkit? Give me 10 things that I can do and apply it over a weekend, and I can pivot my organization. I said two things. Yes, given you have the liberty to do that, if you are really willing to do it, you can pivot your organization mapping from a business architecture point of view over the weekend, because that's the liberty they have. I sitting in HSBC, a multi-country, multi-regulatory heavy organization, I don't have it. So that's what my recommendation to them was. And this is what, I'm sorry, this is what kept coming back to me a lot. And as a business architecture, I would still call myself a student because we are still applying it in many places. What I felt was the key things that really was helpful for me in having these conversations were the four things only, and very heavily reliant on business architecture book of knowledge, understanding the business architecture maturity model evaluation kit, having some of these industry reference models with us. That was of a great help for me to open up these conversations, because these startups are sitting in various pockets of, some were sitting in healthcare and media, not all were on fintech and payment. I have my inclinations towards fintech and payment, so that's how I would start my conversation. But given the variety of the environment these individuals are sitting, the industry reference model gave a very good starting point for me to open up the conversation. And the best way to have them understand the value of business architecture is by asking them, can you tell me what are your level 1 capability model? And when they would normally talk about it, and when we respond by saying from a business architecture framework that what is right, what is wrong, that kind of got their attention on how it can be extended and applied in their organizations. Now, going through all this journey that I've been going through and was planning to take it forward, from my point of view, I've written down some recommendations that maybe the guild members and the member community can come together and kind of extend it in different areas. One I found that was there was not a whole lot of awareness of business architecture. A lot of times when you start a conversation on business architecture, it naturally pivots to things of agile, things of TOGAF in nature, very tech heavy, but not very business heavy. Everyone is looking for a self-evaluation guide that can you give me something that I can check in my organization by myself without involving a lot of heavy lifting. And with that, I get a starter toolkit. Let's say uh, 5-10 minutes. I'm sorry, 5-10 points on what I need to do immediately. Um, Another thing that comes back to me a lot is like, are there support groups out there in form of various communities or forums where they could have a drop-in session where they could come and listen to what this thing is all about and how to apply it. What in my conversations, what I figured out that a lot of business schools from where we do hiring for within the organization run a lot of entrepreneurship programs, which are attended by the same individuals who are leading these startups. And the key topics that are covered over there in the education institutes are ranging from accounts, laws, human resources. And the closest they ever come to something on the architecture is like organization architecture topics, or they would be teaching things on project management areas. So in my connect with some of the education institutes and the faculty member over there, I'm still exploring how they can include the importance of business architecture also in their curriculum, so that this is the place where most of these entrepreneurs and people who are building startups go out to learn more in different kinds of workshops. Uh, we do have incubator connects also, where different industry speakers do come and share those experiences. I find that can be pushed forward a little bit more. And because that's where a lot of people do come in asking the same set of questions and understanding, building their understanding around it. On a personal front, what I'm still working on is, like I said, a business architecture starter kit specifically for a fintech and payment industry, and try to get a more hold and more presence in education and incubator space, where a lot of people who are willing to build something better come to look for the industry best practices. And if I'm able to do that, that would be a win for me. So that's the journey that I was going through, and I wanted to share on that front. These were the key learnings that I came across. And if anyone in this group is also going through the same journey or has a success story on it, would be happy to connect with you. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So how's my sound here? You guys hear me? Okay. All right. What? It's not going? How's yours work, Ruth?
I can hear.
You can hear it?
You can hear it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Question on your second to last slide, one bullet, and then we've got some online questions and we'll have some more in the room. The self-evaluation, I think you mentioned the business architecture maturity model. Did you look at that, or is that was self-evaluation model that was established by the Guild? It was actually the Guild's first member team that built that. So you're asking for that self-evaluation. How would that be different or the same as the business architecture maturity model?
The self-evaluation, when I was sharing with different participants, because the nature of their approach is still on the early stages, they found it a bit heavy to kind of consume and go through that entire self-evaluation model. And the feedback that I've received was, can you make it a little bit more specific? I've got a lot of positive feedback on the industry reference model when I was having conversation with them. So the feedback that I got was, can I have a leaner version of it with a more specific to the area that I'm working in, or what my current organization is working on?
Okay. Yeah, I think eliminating any pieces of it would do a disservice to them longer term. So it's something to take forward as a community conversation, but I'm not sure that they know what they're asking for. Let's go online, Ruth, and start handling some questions there.
Sure. Do startups understand questions like, what are your level 1 capabilities? How do you phrase your questions in a different way?
They don't. Many times when I had sent out surveys, people came back answering that, okay, I've answered the survey, but I didn't understand your question. Uh, and uh, and again, these are like very tech-heavy individuals, and that gave a very good understanding of that. Very good feedback that their understanding of level 1 capabilities is not aligned to what business architecture talks about, and that kind of gave me an opening conversation on asking them that, what do you think are your level 1 capabilities? And then replying back that from a business architecture point of view, this is what it means. And that's where the conversation was productive.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, this is Teresa from Wells Fargo. A lot of what you shared definitely resonated with me around working with fintechs, right? Innovation, every capability for them feels immature because they're like, let's move forward. So I'm curious, the startup kits that you use, once they completed that, what type of support, like what did it illuminate for them, and what type of support, business architecture support, if anything, did you do after they used some of the tools?
So the starter kit, what I talked about is something that I had just, you can call it a bootstrap one, very basic one that, okay, these are the 5 questions, like what are your capabilities, what are your value streams, can you build around it? And what eliminated for them is like they got like some of them, like there were, I can give specific example of one that was working on bridging a media and a payments area. They came back telling me that yes, it helps them realign their priorities better. It helps them build something and look at the problem in a way that was not there, because they were always looking at things from very tech heavy point of view.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Ina, and I'm actually running a tech or a fintech company and have been doing startups for a long time.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I totally agree with all your findings, and I would be more than happy to actually collaborate with you in somehow to build up a startup kit or whatever within
Startup kit.
Yeah, because what I have experienced from my own experience is that doing at least level 1 capabilities in the beginning, when you have your idea phase and you are actually going to go out and talk to investors, it gives you the foundation in actually being able to answer the questions from the investors on risk, on organizational capabilities, and so forth. It's really important to have that foundation. So I think, I don't know if we could do some collaborative work around this within the guild.
We certainly, if we get the energy, we certainly can form a team around it. The members pick the topics. If we can get some energy, we can work on a team. Online, Ruth, we have some more. Okay. So the interest was in putting together a team. I'll shout. To put together a team, we got to get these turned up. To put together a team for talking about startups and maybe fintechs, but certainly startup types of focus. And you know, we'll if you want to post in the community, or we'll start some conversations around the folks who are here, and then we'll take it forward.
The only additional comment that I would give is it may, so if we are trying to build something like that, it will not only help startups, but there are many distributed organizations, like for example, my organization itself. Although it's a global one, but the India business works independently. So if you or Singapore business also works independently and it is governed by a group holding, there are various organizations like that, and it can be used on a smaller levels also, implementing it at a market level.
What frameworks other than surveys have you used in getting buy-in from stakeholders on defining and maturing capabilities?
Yeah, surveys was only to understand what level of maturity they have at an aggregate level, and also categorizing it in terms of industry level, in terms of their organization size, the age of their organization. So surveys was more of understanding where they are coming from and what their challenges and what their thought process is. Getting a buy-in always was help. What had helped me was when I have these conversations with them, I would always ask them, can you tell me your capabilities? And then correcting them from a business architecture point of view, that your capability should be like this, and trying to map them on their value streams. Like I said, many of these individuals come from operations or product background, so their understanding of value stream is different from our understanding. And when we talk to them at that level, it's easy for them to kind of relate. I'm sorry, it's not easy for them to relate, but it requires a lot of explaining. Sharing business architecture guild documentations in terms of what the different papers that are out there. The best one that helped me was the value stream versus value stream. The one that I don't know, it was written by someone a couple of months back. I use that material a lot, and it's a white paper available on Business Architecture Guild site. It talks about how the business architecture value stream relates to a process or a product value stream.
Ruth, I think we had a couple more online.
Yes, I'm looking for them. In HSBC, do you assess your business architecture at the company level or by lines of business? If the latter, do you try to tie everything together?
So there is a central business architecture practice in HSBC, which kind of lays a very broad brush outline of how business architecture definitions, languages should be. Then it has one more level down at a business line of business level, because just to give you a background, banking business is broadly set up between different customer bases, from a commercial banking, from retail, individual, private banking, or from the investment banking areas. So there, the capabilities and the product lines and the customer and the usage differs drastically. So the best way to do it is have a broader understanding of how all these business architects would be talking. That's the standard that the central business architecture community lays out in terms of nomenclature, the document naming conventions, and a one level down capability is dependent on different pillars, because that's where the more subject matter expert comes into the picture. One line of business may not know all the details of the other line of business, and nobody from a global one will understand what happens at each market level. Like, for example, you can talk about countries like Malaysia. In Malaysia, the same product is sold in two different ways, from an Islamic banking point of view, and the same product of mortgage is also sold from a conventional banking point of view. So that's where the individual line of business and the market nuances change. The same thing is very different in, let's say, any other market. So, and what we don't try to do is like try to build one size fits all, fit for purpose. No, I'm sorry, we do fit for purpose, but in an organization, distributed organization like HSBC, we try not to have a very top-down approach. We have a top-down guidance is set, and the finer what you can say subject matter build is left on the businesses and the markets.
Ruth, when you talk, I'm going to try to turn up the mic, the volume.
Do you have experience having a disagreement with business stakeholders about the capability to their area, and how do you deal with it?
Oh, a lot of time disagreement. It starts with a difference in understanding, I would say, not a disagreement. A difference in understanding of how what we view as a capability versus what they view as a capability, and I'm not limiting it to business architecture, because sitting in transformation, you can span it to how the agile ways of working is applied. We try to apply SAFe methodology a lot. Our understanding of agile ways of working is different than what a particular stakeholder or a business understanding of SAFe or agile ways of working is different. So what works for us is like we have an agreement of minimum standards, which is basically driven by audit and regulations. So we first try to build according to it, that, okay, if tomorrow an external audit or a market regulator comes in and asks us certain questions, first let's agree on those terms, and then we'll go one level down and build the finer ways of working. Within individual pods, we'll have a perfect discipline, but as and when we are collaborating with cross-platform teams involving HR, IT, and what you can say, risk, compliance, all these different colors of organization together. What helps is blending the language so that it's kind of used very fungible way with all these different groups. So like how Joseph was talking about having a language and making sure you need to have a common language or a simple language in place. That's what helps.
Okay. Do we have any other room questions here? Okay. Ruth, do we have? All right. Well, that was enlightening. We have some interest in potentially forming, and if you're not a guild member, it's easy to join, but there's some interest, it sounds like, both online and in the room, and you can contact each other through the guild directory under the member resources page of the website. So you should be able to all find each other, but you can also start posting in the guild community. If you're interested in doing a startup, maybe it starts out on FinTech, and we'll go from there and see if we can apply it more broadly over time. But it sounds like we've got some good interest. And Lena, you have your name. You can tell people.
My name is Lena Osterberg. You can find me either on LinkedIn on the directory. I run a company called Economy, which is a FinTech.
Okay. And with that, Devinash, I want to thank you.
Thank
You got everybody's conversations going today, and we might get some interesting things coming out of this. So really appreciate your help today and your input, and hopefully you'll be able to stay online, all the rest of you. We are going to take a lunch break coming up here. And so I believe that the lunchroom, for those on